Good morning, Year 9. I hope you had a lovely week and you're all back into the swing of things with learning from home. This is your 20 question solutions video and it should say 8.2.1 in the corner. Okay, so it starts with some multiplication. So we're going to write it out nice and neatly. So we've got 258 times 27. So we're going to start with the 7. So we're going to start with 7 times 8, which is 56, but remember we have to write it like this. Then we'll do 7 times 5, which is 35, but we've got to add the 5, so that makes 40, and we're going to write it like this. And then 7 times 2 is 14, and then add the 4 there, which makes 18. Okay, so we'll draw a line under that, because we've done that. So next we're going to do the 2, but it's in the tens column, so we're going to put a 0 there. So 2 times 8 is 16, but we're going to write it like that. 2 times 5 is 10, plus this one is 11. And then 2 times 2 is 4, plus that one equals 5. So we've got 5,160 there. And then all that's left to do is add them together. So 0 plus 6 is 6, 0 plus 6 is 6, 1 plus 8, 9, and 5 plus 1 is 6. So there's our final answer, 6,966. Okay, so another one now. So we've got 60 times 47. So hopefully this one's a little bit easier. And I will write it like this because it will show you a little bit of an anomaly. So 7 times 0 is 0. And then 7 times 6 is 42. Okay, so we're going to write that like this. Then we're in our tens column, so we're going to write the 0 here. Now 4 times 0 is 0. And then 4 times 6 is 24. Okay, so the last number, you write it in full. That's why I wanted to show you it that way. Okay, so then we just add them up. So 0 plus 0 is 0, 2 plus 0 is 2, 4 plus 4 is 8, and then we've got our 2 left here. So our final answer is 2,820. Okay, so the next one is timesing fractions. Now, I like timesing fractions because it's easier than adding and subtracting them. So all we do when we times them is we just times across. So 5 times 1 is 5, and then 9 times 6 is 54. Okay, so we can put that on the bottom there. And that's perfect. Okay, so I've now plugged it in, so hopefully we can continue. So on to our next multiplication. So we just multiply across again. So we do 2 times 3 and 11 times 7. So 2 times 3 is 6 and 7 times 11 is 77. Okay, so the next one is all about money. Okay, so we're going to have a go at this one. So we are going to write it out like this, okay? So we've done these lots before, so we'll just make our little thing like this. Now we're dividing by 8, okay, and we want to see how many 8s go into £368 and 80p. Now importantly, we've got our decimal point there, okay? So first things first, how many 8s go into 3? Well, none, I'm afraid. But how many 8s go into 36, okay, because we didn't use the 3, so we still got the whole 36. So we can do our 8 times table. 8, 16, 24, 32. Okay, so 4 go in, but 32 to 36, well, I've got 4 left over, so I'm going to write my 4 here, and now I've got 48, okay? So how many 8s go into 48? Well, that's 6, so I can write my number 6 here. Now I'm going to put my decimal point in exactly where it was here as well, okay? So I've got £46 something. Then I want to know how many 8s go into 8. Well, it's only 1. And how many 8s go into 0? Well, none at all. So that is my final answer. So £368.80 divided by 8 is, making sure we've got our pound sign, £46 and 10 pence. Okay? Now we're going to have a go at the next one. We're going to write it out exactly the same. So we're dividing by 6 this time. And we want to see how many 6s go into £585 and 60p. Okay, so first of all, how many 6s go into 5? Well, I'm afraid none go into 5. Now, next up, how many 6s go into 58? Well, 9 go into 58, because if we do our 6 times table, we would get to 54, okay, because 6 times 9 is 54. But we wanted 58, so we've got 4 left over, okay? So now we've got 45. Okay, so we want to do 45. How many 6's go into there? Well, it's 7, okay? But then 7 times 6 is 42, and I wanted 45, so I've got 3 left over. So I put my 3 here, making sure I've got my decimal points in. And then how many 6's go into 36? Well, that's nice and easy. That's 6. And then I can just fill in my 0. So there's my final answer. We've got £97 and 60 pence. Okay? Okay, on to the next one then. So this says expand. That just means get rid of the brackets, okay? So when we're trying to get rid of the brackets, we take whatever is on the outside of the bracket. So in this case, 4x. And then we times it by all the things in the bracket separately. So I've got to times 4x by 7x. And I've got to times 4x by 11, okay? So let's start with the easy bit. So 4 times 7. So 4 times 7 is 28. But I haven't forgotten about my x's because I've got to do x times x. Now when we times something by itself, that means we get the square of it. So we can just write x squared. So now I want to do 4x times minus 11. So we'll do the same kind of thing. So 4 times minus 11 would be minus 44, but then we've also got to pop our x in, okay? So that would be our answer there. Okay, so the next one's the same. So like I said, we take whatever's on the outside of the bracket and we times it by both parts, okay? So the first thing we've got to do is 3x times 7. So 7 times 3 is 21. And then we just pop in our x because we don't want to forget about that because we had 7 times 3x. Then we've got to do 3x times minus 5x. So 3 times minus 5 is minus 15. And as I said before, we've got an x times an x. So when we've got something's times itself, that means it's squared. So our final answer would be 21x minus 15x squared. Okay, so next one is a bit simpler than that one. So it says express 31% as a fraction in its lowest form. So we know that percentages are out of 100. So the first thing we can do is write it as 31 out of 100, which is a fraction there. Now actually that's as low as we can go because 31 and 100, you can't divide those both by any of the same numbers, okay? So we'll have to stick with that one because it's a prime number. So the next one, we'll do the same thing. So it wants 39% as a fraction. So as we know, percentages come out of 100. So we would write 39 out of 100, like as a fraction. Now, once again, we can't make this any lower because, 39 is divisible by 3. And 13, some other numbers, but sadly 100 isn't also divisible by any of those, so 39 is in its lowest form, but some of them you will have to simplify, okay? So the next one says find the highest common factor of 30 and 120. Now, in other weeks, we have kind of gone through all of the possible factors for each of these numbers, but sometimes you get a nice easy one because actually the highest common factor of 30 and 120 has to be 30 because 30, which is the number we're looking at, goes into 120 4 times because 30 times 4 equals 120. So the highest common factor is 30, okay? So on to the next one then. So this one says find the lowest common multiple of 32 and 12. Okay, so for the lowest common multiple, we want to find the times tables for each of them, okay? And then once we've done our times tables, we want to know what is the lowest number that's in both the 12 times table and the 32 times table. Okay, so let's start with our 32 times table. So we'd start with 32. Then we'd have 64, then we'd have 96, and then after 96, we'd have 128. Let's leave it there, and let's start our 12 times table and see if any of them match. Okay, so we'd have 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84, 96. They match.